Cars is my favorite game, and you know I can't be beat when I'm in the driver's seat. See, I got a lead foot and gas in my veins. God put a V8 where he should have put brains. There ain't a race I haven't run. There ain't a race I haven't won. And it's been 7 days since I've won a race, and I don't plan on leaving this place till I've won another. Send you crying home to your mother. See, I got the car, the skill, the crew, the will. God hates a sinner, but he loves a winner. You dare to show your face? Come on, Ace. Let's race. 43 cars on the field, and I'm sitting on the pole. Pace car's gone, the green flag drops, 500 miles to go. Let's race.
24 cars, left hand side. Go low, you come on. You got him. 17 cars.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson, and you're watching the 505 On Racing Show. Welcome. I have a guest coming on in a little bit, Gary Fritz Jr., who will be a Rookie of the Year contender in the figure eight division here on Long Island at Riverhead Raceway. Gary Jr. has raced a couple of events in the figure eights, I believe in 2011, 2012, but he retained his rookie status by not competing in more than 5 or 6 events, which I'll tell you what, you know, when you have a schedule that gives you 10 races, you could race in half of them and miss the other half and still be considered a rookie the following year. I think they need to reevaluate that, you know, when you only have a 10 race schedule, maybe, and you race maybe 4, maybe you're not a rookie because then you've raced 40%. See, back in the day when there was 20 events and you didn't have to look at the schedule to see if you were racing or not, you didn't have 3 straight weeks off, you raced a third of the races back then, or a little more than a third, or a little under a third, I should say, and you were a rookie. Now you could race half and still be a rookie. I don't understand that. But then again, it's not up for me to understand. You know, it's just not my thing. See, well, people are commenting about the background. How do you know it's a background? Maybe I am in the living room. Because, you know, with today's technology, I could do this show from almost anywhere. Just about almost anywhere. You know, technology, it's all good. Anyway, the top series were in Vegas this weekend. One of those cookie cutter tracks, the mile-and-a-half deal. I'm not a fan of the cookie cutter racetracks, as I'm not a fan of cookie cutter race cars. That's why I'm kind of glad that the Cup Series moved to street versions. And I'm only hoping that the modifieds truly become modifieds in the future. With that being said, one of our viewers last week made a comment that I was right on the edge. And I don't know what I was right on the edge with, because I tell like it is. I don't make stuff up or BS people. I tell it like it is, you know, based on facts, not based on, you know, hearsay. And I know he and his wife listen in view on the computer or at home together, which is nice togetherness between a couple. And maybe they could chat in and tell us what we did that was like right on the edge, or what I should say what I did. I need to take ownership of that. But I want to thank not only the Enravio staff for all they did last week and last week's show, Christine in the control room, Chuck and Bonnie, who actually are the heart and soul of Enravio. I want to thank them for putting on a real good show. I got a lot of comments during the week from that show. A lot of people said that that's a show that we should use when I'm off as a best of, because they would love to see it again, and it is archived at enravio.com. And you know, looking back on it, I'll tell you what, I had a fun time doing it. Sitting round table, Mike Gravel Buxa, Tom killed the Mad Hatter killed Kenny, WJ, Walter Johnson from MyRaceNews.com, Kevin Basic from Long Island Need for Speed, and of course from the Heinz Museum of Nostalgia, Marty Himes. And I hope they had as much as a good time as I did. And WJ's already posted that it was fun, and it was fun. You know, somebody was talking to me at work a couple of days later, and they said that usually when you have that many people sitting at a table talking about their passion, somebody always tries to overshadow or overpower the other person, and we didn't have that. It was like everybody, somebody asked me if it was scripted, if we scripted that show. We didn't. We just sat there and we talked, and it just worked out. So again, my thanks to everybody who participated in that. I had a real good time doing it. It was fun. I wish we would have had, that's one of those shows that you wish you would have had more time. You know, and I'll be honest, there's sometimes, and I'm sure you'll agree with me when, you know, I'll be sitting here for 2 hours and it's like, every once in a while I'll glance at the clock. All right, I got to talk for 10 more minutes. But that was a night where, I couldn't see the clock. And people were saying, you know, let's go on all night. And we could have. And yeah, there was no script. We were flying blind. I mean, even the notes that I had for things I wanted to go over were short and sweet because I knew the show was going to be long. I knew there was going to be some good conversations, some good feedback, and the help of the chat room. You know, some of the questions that were asked in the chat room were just awesome. You know, we talked about, you know, racetracks closing and how sad that is, you know, because you don't realize what you have in some cases till it's gone. So when we're talking about racetracks closing and some of the things that Marty went and got for the museum, you know, somebody in the chat room wanted to know if, you know, the time, it's inevitable, you know, racetracks close all over the world, and the racetrack here on Long Island, someday it's going to close. Hopefully that day is way far off, and hopefully not in my lifetime. But when it does close, somebody asked, you know, what would you want from that racetrack? And, you know, and everybody, you know, spoke from their heart. What they wanted. And Kevin Basic was the best because he goes, I don't want nothing. I was like, what do you don't want nothing? He says he has the memories on his video, on his DVDs, in his heart, in his soul, and he goes, that you can't take away. So that was a good thing, and like Marty wanted the starter stand because it came from Islip Speedway. I didn't know that, and so it was good, you know. Yeah, Kevin, I started watching, and you know what's funny? I was watching the ones that said Freeport because I had not been to Freeport since, well, once in '79, but I was only there to attempt to race a late model because a buddy of mine was suspended from Freeport, and I was suspended from Islip. So he was going to race my car, and I was going to race his car, and you know, we both didn't fare too well. So basically, I went, I didn't qualify, and you know, his guy just loaded up the car, and I went home. And he basically did the same thing, and because the figure 8 heats were early at Islip, they're around 6 o'clock, so by 7 he was done. So, you know, with the handicap, and he had to start last, and I know I started last for whatever reason, but it was different. And yeah, I was suspended a couple of times and fined more than a couple of times, and there were also many times where I was walked to the pit gate and told not to come in until next week. I don't understand why, because I'm an easygoing, you know, mellow, quiet type of guy, and you know, I mean, I know one time when I got suspended, it was because I it's not really funny because I'm an official now, and I wouldn't like him to have to be. I'll share the story with you. There I was in the figure 8 feature. I started outside pole, and by turn 1, I was in the lead. And by turn 2, I probably had a 3-car lead. And by about midway, I had more than a straightaway lead, and I was starting to crisscross with lap traffic. And that was back when we had 24 cars in the feature. So I'm crisscrossing with lap traffic, and there's a big wreck in one of the corners, and the cars are rolling, you know, off the wall. The red flag comes out, and I had stopped to let the late Ralph Tassel roll off the wall. So now we're doing a restart, and there's like 4 to go, and I was, like I said, leading the race, and there's like 4 to go, and no, 6 to go. And I pull up to the front of the field, and Eddie Herold, the starter back at the time, he's lining up the cars. He's got a sheet of paper in his hand, and he's waving guys up, and I'm like revving my motor, like, yo, what's going on? And he's like, no. So he comes over to me, he goes, you're 19th. I said, I'm 19th. What are you talking about? I've been leading this race since the start. He said, no. They're saying you were in the wreck. I said, I wasn't in the wreck. Are you kidding me? There's not a mark on my car. You know, I mean, other times I was in the wrecks, but not this time. So he calls up to the tower, and he comes back. He takes off his headset. He sticks his head in, and he said, the chief steward said, go 19th or go in the pits. So I go 19th. There's nothing you're going to do. You can't, fight on the racetrack. And I beat and banged my way to like a top 5. I come off the rim. Now, if anybody who's not familiar with Riverhead Raceway, you exit the racetrack from turn 3, and it's a tight little thing to pull in. Then there's a building. They call it the handicapper shack. It's 2 stories high. Right there that you got to make a sharp right. But the officials are on the other side of that, up on the wall, at the gate that you drive onto the racetrack. So I drive over to there, and I get out of the car. I don't even shut it off, and it kind of rolls and hits something. And I pushed him over the wall, the chief steward, Bill Bryce III. So by the time I get dragged off him and I'm back at my car, I'm asked to leave. Imagine that. They asked me to leave the racetrack, and I tell them I'm not going without my stuff. But the way I'm parked, I can't get out. We're messing up everything. So there was only one race after hours, and that night it was the blunderbuss for whatever reason. I don't know why they went last. Probably somebody was late that they liked, and they had to wait for him. But anyway, so one of the officials comes over to me. He says, you gotta. It was early. Then you gotta leave, and I'm not leaving. So then they wanted to see me up in the office after when the night was over, and it was ugly. So I leave, and then one of the officials comes back and says to me, hey, listen, all the officials told him that you weren't part of the crash, and he wants to say you're sorry. So if you say you're sorry that you pushed him, he'll say he's sorry that he messed you up. So I say I'm sorry. Of course, I was still fine, but he says to me, look, I messed up. I thought you were part of the crash, my fault. I said, all right, let's go back to 4 to go with the field, and let's see how it goes with me in the lead. Oh, I can't do that, but I owe you one down the road. How do you owe somebody one down the road? I never got paid back, but that was an ugly day. I actually pushed it. I should have been thrown out forever. But then there's another family member of mine. I know he bounced a soda off of one guy's head, and he punched another guy in the chest. Both chief stewards, and nothing happened to him. So maybe it's a family thing. Maybe they just don't want to. They don't want to. Well, we'll keep that for another book. But anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll go over the results at Vegas, and our guest is sitting in Studio A, finishing up the leftover lobsters that I brought in, and having a little glass of wine. He brought his I guess his crew chief and his car owner, or his car owners. But we'll figure that out when they come on. But we'll be back after this.
Moriches Bay Diner and Restaurant. Steaks, chops, wraps, breakfast skillets. The Moriches Bay, 62 Montauk Highway in Moriches, New York. 878-6827. The Moriches Bay Diner and Restaurant in New York.
I get so lost.
Hey, this is Joe Larson from the 5 On Racing Show, and you are watching InRavio.com, broadcasting to the world.
InRavio.com.
InRavio.com. Internet, radio, TV. InRavio.com. Broadcasting to 6.8 billion people. Streaming 24/7. InRavio.com.
This is not your daddy's radio. Well, Alessi's Cool in Radio.com, broadcasting to the world.
Do you have the time to listen to me whine about nothing and everything all at once? I am one of...
Hey, we're back. We are back. So, I left myself on before, so I was wondering why everything was so loud. So I left myself on, but WJ reminded me that I left my mic out. Thank you, WJ. WJ is a good guy. I'll tell you what. I know him a long time. He's always been good to me. Always been good to me. What the heck's going on? What about you? There we go. Sorry about that. It's one of those days today, I'll tell you. But anyway, Vegas this weekend, some stuff was going on. But I want to talk about Reed Sorensen. He filled in for Michael Annett at Las Vegas this past weekend. Annett suffering from a fractured sternum in Daytona. He'll be out up to 2 months. And I know another person who fractured their sternum in a similar fashion, and he was out more than 2 months. But Sorensen and Annett, they're good buddies off the track as well. They play golf, they hang out, and all that kind of good stuff. So, so Reed Sorensen is very happy to be able to help out a friend, so to speak. Eric Almirola drove the car last week at Phoenix, and Sorensen will be in the car until Michael Annett returns to the car. So it's all good. He was walking around Vegas with Richard Petty Motorsports gear on to let people know that he was the guy. Kind of funny. You know, I wrote in one of my books that it's like people who work in hospitals in the medical field, they wear scrubs like all the time, even to like to the grocery store, because they want people to know that they're in the medical field. Or same thing with race car drivers. In fact, I know a race car driver. I guess I still know him. He's just not a race car driver anymore. He used to wear his fire suit to the diner after the races, so everybody knew he was a race car driver, I guess. I don't know. But me, I couldn't wait to get mine off. Anyway, Danica Patrick, who looks so promising in Daytona with the pole and a good, finish, has had 2 weeks in a row of tearing up race cars. She was checked out, actually, because she was suffering from headaches. She was saying the headaches were from being hit in the head with a stone at a dirt track she was at during the week. But I guess that's NASCAR's way of, I'm going to say, covering up. Because, I'm going to get one of those fines one of those days like Denny Hamlin got for saying disparaging remarks. But the facts remain. I've been to dirt track all over the Northeast and in Florida. And I sit into a stand right there. I never got hit with anything. So, But she had those 2 hard hits, and I'm thinking that she got her bell rung. Even with all the safety stuff, the Hans, the containment seat, and the way, if you ever watch her hit the wall, which is often, she's from the Indy days. You take your hands off the steering wheel, and she tucks them in the shoulder harness, so that her arms don't go wheeling and wailing and going all over the place. And maybe I wish I would have did that when I wrecked, but then again, I think I was unconscious when I hit the wall because my fingers still hurt from that wreck, and it was in 1996. But those things happen. Your body's not meant to bounce off walls. It's just not meant to be. It's just not. Denny Hamlin, I mentioned earlier, Denny Hamlin was fined $25,000 for comments made last weekend about the performance of the new NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Gen 6 car. He just wasn't happy with the performance, so NASCAR fined him for those remarks. And NASCAR determined that Hamlin violated Rule 12-1, actions detrimental to auto racing. Now, if you ever look at a NASCAR rulebook, 12-1 is like pages, because then it's 12-1-1, 1A, 1B, -2, 2. Usually I got 12-1-4 actions detrimental, usually like fighting or arguing or something like that. It's like the cure-all. It's like, when it's like a Class A misdemeanor. You're punished. You did it. You got to be, punished for it. This is Hamlin's first fine for speaking his mind since 2010, where he was fined with a few other drivers who received unpublicized fines for criticizing the sport. And he actually went to his car owner and said, I'm not paying it. I'll sit out. Now, obviously, he didn't sit out. Obviously, they raced. But, you know, like, and people say, wow, a $25,000 fine. Well, that's really not a lot because think about what they make per race. And I know everybody's on a different deal. And I'm sure that the driver, in at least the top echelon, they're not writing a check out of their own pocket. I'm sure that's part of their deal. If I get fined, you're paying type of thing. But, you know, when you look at a team that, you know, maybe that day they make 100,000 and they're fined 25,000, that's 25 cents on the dollar. So you take your local weekly track where, you know, it's 500 to win, let's say, and you're fined 100, you know, 100 and a quarter. It's the same. You know, the impact's the same. So just, you know, keep that in mind because I always, these findings, and I always wonder, where does this fine money go? I mean, you've heard in NASCAR, $50,000 fines, $100,000 fines. Where does this fine money go? Even the local tracks, the hundreds, the 50s, the 200s. I was always told it went into the point fund. Well, some tracks don't have a point fund. So where does it go? Does it go like to charity, as I think it should? Because if I was back racing again and they called me and said, look, you're fined, whatever, 100, 500,000, 10,000, whatever, and they told me, I would say, all right, I'll pay it, but I want it to go to a charity. And I don't think they'd agree with that. But if I asked them where the fine money went, I don't think they'd be able to tell me that either. So anyway, Vegas, nationwide. We got good results here. Vegas. Sam Hornish Jr. was the winner. Kyle Busch second. Brian Vickers third. Trevor Bayne was fourth. Elliott Sadler fifth. Austin Dillon sixth. Reagan Smith seventh. Alex Bowman eighth. Brian Scott ninth. And Travis Pastrana bringing out the top 10. The way the points stand after 3 events, it's Sam Hornish Jr. is the point leader. Justin Allgaier second. Elliott Sadler third. Brian Scott fourth. Reagan Smith fifth. Austin Dillon sixth. Brian Vickers seventh. Trevor Bayne is eighth. Nelson Piquet Jr. is ninth, and Alex Bowman rounds out the top 10 in the points after 3 events. Trucks are off again. The trucks will be headed to Martinsville this weekend. This weekend? No, it's 6th. The weekend of the 6th will be heading to Martinsville. Everybody else is going to Bristol. And that's another series. The truck series, I don't know what's up with that schedule. They have less shows, too. It's almost like they're like a weekly series. They're not racing every week. They get weeks off. The travel is a little crazy where they go, where they don't go. They have some standalone events. You know, Chad Little's got his hands full with that series. I'll tell you what, because, you know, you use officials when you go to a race, like when the touring series goes to Bristol with the modifieds and I go. Because I'm there and I'm on the payroll, I work just about everything. I just don't work the cup. But I do a lot of the stuff because they have me going home by then. But when the trucks go, like they're going to, I believe, Rockingham, and it's a standalone event, they're hard-pressed to get officials because most of the officials they use aren't full-time truck series officials. They're Cup officials, nationwide officials, K&N series officials, modified tour series, touring officials. So I don't know what he's going to do for officials there, and it's unfortunately when he's there, I believe the Wheeling Modified Tour is going to be up north, and the Southern guys have an event down in Caraway, I think. But then again, most of their races are in Caraway, so I think I got a 50-50 shot here. I don't know. Let's see. Somebody couldn't get an answer. Where? I don't know. I guess I missed the beginning of that shot because, you know. I don't know. But anyway, that's where the nationwide guys going. Now the Cup. Cup was at Vegas. The winner was Matt Kenseth. Casey Kane was second. Kind of exciting finish. I was kind of watching it. I thought Kane was going to catch him. You know, I'm not a professional race car driver anymore. Not that I was. Well, I really was, because if you paid for what you do, it makes you a professional. So I guess I was a professional race car driver. I just wasn't in the Cup Series. I was like in the bottom of the barrel type of race car driver. But I'm thinking Casey Kane needed to run a different line, because what was he? Anyway, he's in Cup and I'm not, so I guess he knows what he's doing. Anyway, Matt Kenseth was the winner. Casey Kane second. Brad Keselowski was third. Kyle Busch was fourth. Carl Edwards fifth. Jimmy Johnson sixth. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was seventh. Martin Truex Jr. eighth. Kevin Harvick ninth. And Paul Menard, nice top 10 for Paul Menard. The points as they stand right now, Jimmy Johnson is the point leader, go figure. Brad Keselowski second, Dale Earnhardt Jr. third, Denny Hamlin fourth. He's fourth, and he wasn't going to race no more. Anyway, Carl Edwards fifth, Mark Martin sixth, Matt Kenseth seventh, Greg Biffle eighth, Clint Boyer ninth, and Eric Almirola rounding out the top 10. You know, when you look at the points, I know it's only 3 events so far, but you look at the points, it's pretty much, it's Hendrick and Michael Waltrip Racing. It's like half the guys in the top 10. And it's kind of funny. The teams with the most money, I guess money buys wins. Money buys wins. So, interesting cookie cutter race. Bristol. Bristol's coming up. One of my favorite places to watch a race at. It's a beaten, bumping, banging, short track racing where you would think you're at your local racetrack because they're rolling on the pavement in the garage, they're barging into people's haulers, stuff you don't see on TV because it's, you know, think about it. Think about this now. For those who've never raced a race car, you're in a race car for 4 hours. It's probably 140 degrees inside the car. You're wearing the suit. You got all this stuff on, your gloves, helmets, all kinds of stuff. You know, when you pit, you might be able to, you know, have somebody throw you a bottle of water. Some of them have cool suits on. Some of them have filtration systems. Some of them have what they call a Camelback where they could suck water. I know I raced with a Camelback and I was drinking stuff when I was going. I know a demo driver who had kept a 12-pack of beer in the glove compartment of his demolition derby car, and then he had, you know, straws going to it, so, you know, he didn't miss a sip. But, you know, think about this. Now, you're in this race car for 4 hours. You're going down a straightaway, and you're making a turn every 4 seconds. And they're beating you, and they're banging you, and you're 33 degrees, and your neck is going sideways, and, man, if you don't think race car drivers are athletes, I'm telling you, you got to be in good shape to drive a race car. You know, old guys like me, we can't. Our days are done. We can't drive race cars no more. We need these young kids, and this young kid I'll be bringing on shortly. You know, it's the future of figure 8 racing here on Long Island, and you know, you gotta have young guys. And when you look at the top 3 series, the Sprint Cup Series, the Nationwide, the Campbell World Truck Series, you see a lot of young kids. And this is where it starts. And you know, when you're 25 years old, nobody wants to hire you as a Sprint Cup driver. You got to start in your teens. You got to start your late teens, by the early 20s. And Daddy has to have a big fat bank account, you know, a couple of million at least, you know. And hopefully, when he's done, if he gets downtime, he still has a couple of bucks left. But you know, it's an expensive sport. It's an expensive business, an expensive hobby. And you know, depending on how you approach it. If it's just your golf game, you go out, you do a few laps, you drive it off the racetrack, and it's a win. Hey, God bless you, you had a good time. But for those of us who treat this as a business, and you know, we're not looking to go through our pension fund, we're not looking to go through our 401ks, we're not looking to go through the savings, we're not looking to have to live in our car because we didn't pay the mortgage on our house and it got, you know, foreclosed on because we weren't racing. Which, don't believe me when I tell you, it happens, and it's happened to guys in the top level. If you read the life of Mark Martin, who lost everything back in his ARCA days, and when he was first starting out, and I remember watching it on the news, and there he was as they were auctioning off his property, and he was there, just watching this stuff go, and the sadness in his eyes. But you know, down the road, it paid off for him. You know, if it's your passion, you got to be able to make certain sacrifices to do that, and you know, some people might disagree with that. Some people who don't understand that, you know, don't understand what your passion is sometimes, and it's very difficult to explain. And everybody has their thing. Some people, you know, and I don't want to leave women out. Some people are into crocheting, and they like, you know, and that latch hook thing, and they make stuff and they hang them on the walls in their house, and they're proud of that, and basket weaving, and some people are into gardening, and you know, and that's their passion. You know, think about the money that you spend putting in flowers and shrubs around your house and on your property. The money that you spend doing that. Nobody's, at the end of the week, the guy across the street doesn't come over, hey, here's $50, you came in first. He doesn't, because you do it as a passion. That's what you do. And some people do that with auto racing. They don't care what it costs. They work overtime and it pays for their race, and maybe their wives babysit or something, so they have racing money. And you know, I know some guys that their wives just took a second job when they didn't need to, so they go racing. And some people, you know, drive around in the middle of the night getting scrap off the sidewalk and bringing it to the scrapyard to go racing. Everybody does their thing. You know, I was blessed enough to be able to talk to people and get sponsorships to go racing, because I never, in all my years of racing, never once went into my own pocket and paid for a part, paid for a gallon of gas, nothing. I always had good sponsors. And I had some weird sponsors. I had a funeral home as a sponsor. I mean, that was, you know, people laughed at me when I had a funeral home, but that's what you do. Anyway, it was all good back in the day. It was, you know, I had a lot of fun, and I'm still having fun, because, you know, I decided when it's not fun anymore, I'm going to go do something else. And so far, I haven't done something else, although people are waiting for me to announce what I'm going to do with my something else, and I'm not ready to do that yet, for reasons that you'll understand when I make the announcement. But things for 2013 are going to be a little bit different for Joe, and I know I've been saying that for a couple of months now, but that's how it's going to be. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, and you know, I'm going to my first stock car race. You know, I'm one of those guys. I remember every little thing. It was 1965. It was Freeport Municipal Stadium on Long Island, and when we went to that race, and it was like, I never forgot it. I talked about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. I told my friends, and you know, it's funny. I went to Babylon. I went to school in Babylon. Now, Babylon is, you know, Long Island South Shore community. It's very hoity-toity. Let me tell you. And you either fit in or you don't. And one of the things that kids that I grew up with, first and second grade, you know, when you're 5, 6, 7 years old, they didn't know what a stock car was. They thought it was like Mario Andretti in an Indy car or something, which wasn't the case. But you know, but I was at the racetrack, and as far as they were concerned, I was it, man. I was the guy. But they didn't understand it. And 20 years later, they still don't understand it. But it is what it is, as they say. So what are you going to do? We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have our guest, Gary Fritz Jr., and we'll get him wired in and it's all set up, and we'll go from there. So we'll be back. Hey, guys.
East End Screen Printing and Embroidery. Shirts for as low as $3 with print. 631-281-TEES. That's 631-281-TEES. 1355F Montauk Highway, Mastic, Long Island, New York. Go to eastendsilkscreenprinting.com for more info. Hey, this is Chuck from the Two Guys in the Chick Show on Radio.com. Hey, you know, this last election, apparently there were only 5.6 billion unique views online. Go figure. I guess it kind of opened their eyes a little bit that internet is the new way to go. I guess you could say the future of radio is now, broadcasting to 6.8 billion people in Radio.com.
In Radio. Good Times Magazine, New York's best entertainment paper for 43 years. Check out their calendar for all the latest music info, including New York City, Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk. Studio News brings you the biggest news about the hottest artists and sounds. Technobeat is your guide to electronica, techno, house, and dubstep. Packtrack keeps you up to date on the biggest events at the area's performing arts centers and theaters. Good Times Magazine gives you all this and more. It's bi-weekly and it's free. Pick up your copy today or visit goodtimesmag.com.
Hey, this is Joe Larson from the 5 Off 5 On Racing Show, and you are watching InRadio.com, broadcasting to the world.
I've seen the bright lights of Memphis and the
And we're back. Just want to read this real quick. Dunkin' Donuts of Shirley and Mastic with locations on William Floyd Parkway and Montauk Highway here in Long Island for fresh brewed coffee, tea, hot and cold beverages, donuts, fresh baked goods, sandwiches, K-Cups. America runs on Dunkin'. Welcome to the 505 on Racing Show. As you can see, to my left, your right, we have a guest, Gary Fritz Jr. Welcome.
What's going on?
Glad to have you. Gary is a Rookie of the Year contender in the figure eight division at Riverhead Raceway. He started in 2011 with 4 events, still retaining his rookie status. No events in 2012. You'll be driving a car owned by one of the best in the business, TK Tom Kraft, and your dad, who owned his championship car.
So he tells me. He's my father, but...
They got a championship together, those two guys.
Yes. I'm very lucky to be brought on to somebody who knows what they're doing.
They do. Now, and your crew chief is who?
Rick Swanson.
Rick Swanson. I think he's turned 1 or 2 wrenches on figure eight cars.
Oh,
in his
yes.
day.
Very much of an advantage for me,
Yeah.
having him on as a crew chief, very much.
Because Rick Swanson, for those who don't know, Rick Swanson, I remember meeting Rick Swanson about 35 years ago when he lived across the street from my Uncle John around Konkoma. And I was like, look at this guy. The guy's like 6'2", weighs about 90 pounds. And what is he going to... The guy can make it happen. And I think he's the only crew chief that TK ever had. And I think they got 3 championships together. So that's... Ricky's been around. And Ricky, it was funny. Ricky drove my car a few times, and he's driven a lot of cars. But, you know, he's one of those guys. He's not going to win a lot of races, but he's going to be there in the end. He's going to drive the car off the racetrack. And then he's going to get out of his car and he's going to help somebody else, because that's the type of guy he is. I know my daughter wrecked in practice one time, and I was ready to load up and go home. And he crawled underneath, he had put his camera to the side, because he always has the camera in his hand.
Yes.
He put the camera to the side, and he looked underneath, he goes, go get this, and this, and we'll be back. And I couldn't believe it. Not only did we go back, we ended up qualifying and ended up having a good run in the future. So, you know, you got one of the best in the business.
Yep.
And, you know, between your dad and TK and Ricky, they're putting a lot of pressure on you, because you got to perform now.
Yeah, they put all the pieces in place. I guess it's just up to me, right?
It's up to you at this point. Now, the car, I can't resist this. Now, the car you drove in 2011, you know I'm going to ask.
Yes.
I know it's probably the only race car you really ever drove, right?
Yes, it is the only race car I've ever
Were you happy with that car?
Well,
you can tell the truth.
Coming from nothing, I'm always happy with something going out there. It didn't like me very much.
No, it didn't.
No, did not like me.
Because, you know, we're broadcasting to 5.6 billion people nationwide, you know, in the worldwide, actually. So, you know, you can tell it like it is. So, you know, you don't have to hold back.
No, well, she didn't like me. She was, every time I got out of that car, there was always something breaking on it. I remember my first race, actually, it's funny you talk about Ricky. He wasn't even on my crew. I didn't even know him from a hole in the wall. Came up to me, started helping me, telling me things that I didn't even know about. I just stuck me out there and let me drive.
Baptism by fire.
Exactly.
That's how I learned. That's how I learned. I learned how to drive a standard shift car on the racetrack.
That was how I learned it, race car too.
Went through a few clutches. Spent a lot of money. It's just one of those things, you know. But you know, I don't know if you noticed, but I drove that car for 2 years. That was my car for a couple of years.
You know, I did my homework. I know my I know some of my history right now with some of the drivers.
And that car won one of the last races.
Yeah, last race at Islip Speedway. My car owner Tommy Kraft took the checker that day. So there was a lot of history. I remember getting the stories all the way home when we were towing it. So.
And that car had a championship too.
Yes.
So.
Unfortunately, it didn't pan out well for me.
That's all right. Hey, let me tell you something. You know what's funny? Bobby Lane built that car, if I'm not mistaken. And the bumper on that, they were looking at the bumper and they said, you know, that's a lot of bumper. What if we break that bumper? And Bobby Lane said, if we break that bumper, that car's going to the boneyard. Well, I broke the bumper. And it didn't go to the boneyard. Not even like it should have. It just broke just right. And you look at some of my videos, you can see that I patched the bumper to it, you know, from those days. But I'll tell you what, I had fun driving that car. We affectionately called it the little car, you know, because after I banged through the gears, I had to put my clutch foot under my knee because there was no room for me. You know, it was very tight there, and if I threw it in second gear, my knuckles hit the bar. But I had fun in that car.
Yep.
And I don't know how TK got in and out of that car. I don't know.
That beats me still. I had a different nickname for the car. I actually called it Lucifer. So.
Lucifer. Okay, that makes sense. But now, the car you're going to be driving in 2013 here on Long Island, which car is that now?
That's the 57 Chevy.
57 Chevy.
That's got some history in that one as
does.
well.
It
So.
does. You know, it's throwback from when figure eight racing was figure eight racing. When I know when I was a kid going in the 70s watching the figure eights, and I didn't go a lot when I was a kid, you know, because my dad thought racing was stupid, waste of time, waste of money, waste of everything. But those were the cars, the Chevys, the 56, 55, 57 Chevys, the 56 Fords, you know, the Chryslers with the fins. I mean, those are figure eight cars, man. You know, and you TK drove that car. He had some, you know, success with it. Now you're going to be in that car, and you know, what do you look to get out of that in 2013?
Well, I'm looking for not to come out of the car every week and get screamed at by Tommy. That's one thing I'm looking for.
Forget that. You're going to win, and he'll scream at you. All right.
But you know, that's all learning. But honestly, I'm looking out there to. It's kind of a new start because. Obviously, in 2011, we didn't have the best of luck, and this car is a car that's going to stay together, and it's going to be a contender.
Right.
I'm going to be able to run with everybody.
Yep.
So there's not a doubt in my mind that this is going to really set the tone for future, especially this season.
All right.
Looking forward to it.
Now let me know. You're 19 years old. You're going to be 19 Thursday.
Yes.
Why figure eight racing?
Why not?
I'm with you.
It's you know what? It's a lot of traditional with Tommy, my father, and you know, there's always that something about it. It's just you get your adrenaline going, and you never know what's going to happen. So, well, you kind of hope that nothing happens, but it's always just is an extra feature in it, and fans love it, and it's it's always been an interest. It's so different than any other series. You're not just making lefts, you're making rights. You got the exits.
You're constantly thinking.
Yes.
Constantly. And I raced a couple of truck races, some 50 lappers, and it got boring. It was 4 seconds on the gas, roll through the corner. 4 seconds on the gas, roll through the corner. And at one point I says, oh, we need a red flag. We need a call. We need something. I gotta stop this. I'm getting dizzy. Because I was used to figure eights. You go into your corner, you're looking here, you're looking here. Your eyes, you're always moving. I always say with figure eight racing, you got to utilize what I call the seeing habits. You know, keep your eyes moving, leave yourself an out, watch out for the other guy. You know, it's so different. Even like your spotter, you can't always say it's inside because sometimes they're outside because you're going both different ways. You know, and then going through the X and planning. Am I going to go slow? Am I going to go fast? Am I going to go wider? Or am I going to try to cut it narrow to avoid that here? Because some people think they want to crash in figure eights, and we don't want to crash.
No.
You don't want to crash, and it's just, and then people think it's scary. It's not really scary. The near misses from the grandstand, it's a car length when you're right there.
Yep. Like you said, you don't. I definitely don't want to crash. That's not one thing.
No.
Actually, I keep getting threatened by Tommy and my father that if I tear up the car, that I will be replaced by Bill Batch because he can fit in the car. So
wow,
that's always going to be in the back of my head while I'm driving out there. So
wow. Now, to go racing in any series at any level, it takes backing. Who were some of the people that are helping Gary Fritz Jr. race in 2013?
Well, of course, I got like we said, my two car owners, my father and Tommy. Rick Swanson, of course. But going sponsorship-wise, I'd like to thank Northeastern Office Equipment and Grant Williams. He's made a lot possible for us.
Great guy.
All right. Maybe I could thank GTL Enterprises
Absolutely.
as well.
Yep.
And I'm always looking for help. Always looking, sponsor wanted. Could definitely use it because it's not, like you said before, it's not a cheap sport.
It's not.
But it's definitely rewarding. So.
And even in the local weekly series at your local short track, you could easily spend $30,000, $40,000 in a season and not even be in the top series.
Yes.
With the cost of motors today, tires. I mean, there are guys that put what we call stickers, brand new tires on their car every week. There are some that do it every other week. There are some that do it every third week. and you could tell the difference.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying you need to get tires every week. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want everybody to go out and say, "Hey, Joseph, you need 4 tires every week." You don't, but you know, you do have to make that balance. You have to budget your resources wisely.
Yes.
And even with motors, you know, you can go down to the yard, get a rebuilt motor that's built for a car and go out and blow up, or you can get a motor that somebody's going to give you because they had it laying around and it blows up. And I know you blew up some motors in 2011.
Yeah.
One or
Yes.
two, anyway.
I think I went through 3 motors
Yeah,
in
3
4
motors.
races.
Yeah,
I don't
so-
know. I think I should be in a record book for that one, but
Yeah.
that one
No,
was,
Steve Sadler has you beat. Yeah. but when in doing that, you know, the cost, I should say, of racing a race car. I mean, a lot of people don't realize what it costs just to get to the racetrack.
yeah.
Between licenses, fuel for your hauler, you got to eat when you're there. You got to get tires. Your parts guy is always hanging because you're always going to need a part. I mean, just from normal wear and tear, you know, a ball joint, a spring, a shock, something. With that in mind, and the figure 8 payoff, and for a lot of folks that don't know this, the figure 8 payoff, dollar for dollar, is probably the best paying division here on Long Island.
Yes.
And I know you're probably not doing this for the money. You're not gonna. You have other aspirations, but at this time in your life, you're going racing, and I'll tell you what. I think there's nothing better than going racing with your dad. You know, and I always wish my dad was into it. You know, because we never bonded, we never did anything together, and you know, to do that with your dad, to me, that's like awesome. There's nothing better than racing with your dad, and then to have a guy with the knowledge of TK, it's just amazing.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, and I argue this case all the time because TK helps so many people. And those people know it. And he's not out there, hey, help that guy, help that guy, help that. He never says a word about it. And those guys thank him. But he never got the accolades or recognition that he deserved. I mean, there was times that he finished second to a guy because it was his first win. Yeah, I got 30, 40 wins, I don't need no one. And a lot of people are like, oh, wow, he could have passed on anybody. Wow, maybe there was something wrong with the car. There's nothing wrong with the car. That's the way he is. A true sportsman, in my game. And I mean, him and I, it's funny, on the racetrack, it was like we were arch enemies, you know. and we traded some paint a few times. We had our share of arguments on Saturday night, but on Sunday, we're at the house, his house and my house, we're barbecue, watch the cup race, watch the video from the night before, you know, joke and laugh about it. And I learned a lot from those videos. Now, Ricky's gonna have that camera. I know he's gonna be videotaping. And I know if not Sunday afternoon, maybe even Saturday night, they're gonna be showing you these videos.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see.
I've been, I mean, I go to school right now, and I'm telling you, it's like studying another class with all the notes that Professor Kraft is giving me right now. So,
I never quite heard them being called professor. That's a good one. That's a good one. Now looking beyond, you have other aspirations in racing, or are you just going to take it one season at a time, one race at a time?
you know what? For right now, it's one season at a time. I'm still getting my feet wet with everything. But you know what? You never know what's going to happen. In the future, maybe there's an opportunity for me to move up. And, there's a lot of people coming out of Riverhead that are, making pretty good name for themselves.
Yeah.
So why can't my name be out there?
There you go. We're going to talk about one of those guys later in the second hour of the show, because there are a lot of guys that came out of the north that have headed south and have been successful, whether they've been drivers, whether they've been crew chiefs, whether they've been spotters. They've come out of the Northeast, Long Island in particular, and they've gone and they've landed jobs. They're successful. I mean, the guy that built that car that you drove or helped build or helped maintain, I mean, he put it back together for me a lot. It's like Tommy Ryan. He's down there with Hendrick, back with Hendrick. He was with Hendrick, then Earnhardt, now back with Hendrick. I had the opportunity to talk with him at Daytona, and he hasn't changed a bit. He's still that mellow, easy going. It's all good, I talked about the old days a little bit, and he was asking, what's happening to the division? There's no new guys coming in. And, TK and I, we had this talk not so long ago, that's what we need. We need the new blood. The new blood's not going in, and the older guys stepping out for whatever reason. It's, whether they don't want to do it anymore, they don't have the money, the health, whatever. And what's happened is the division is at, in my opinion, figure eight division is at the pinnacle of its. It could go either way.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, and I don't agree with a lot of stuff that goes on here in Long Island racing, but I'm a figure eight guy, through and through. And I would be saddened if there was no figure eight racing. So to see a guy like you, a young guy like you, with the equipment that you kind of come out with. I mean, you're not coming out with a hunk of junk that they rolled out of the woods and the leaves are going to blow out of it. No, not this time, really. There's nothing wrong with that other car. Lucifer, as you call it. But it's one of the things that with a guy like you going in with a decent car, you're gonna have some stuff going on, and it's I gotta move my mic. I keep hitting it here. Sorry about that. When somebody sees a guy like you, that you're probably going to be very successful. Brian Cicella, the first night he drove my figure eight car, he went out and he backed into a fourth. It's still in the book. It's a top five. Mm-hmm. 5 cars finished the race. He was fourth at the end. And that's when the payoff was paid. He got paid for fourth. And I remember I went and got the payoff, and he goes, hey, if you don't mind me asking, what did we make tonight? And I said, let's put it this way. We made more money tonight than we made all of last year with the Blunderbuss. And we finished like 6th or 7th in the points. And it was one of those things that a lot of people, they're not there for the money, but at least you want to cover expenses. So it's one of those things. Now, people in the chat room, they want to know if you're on Twitter.
Yes, I am. You can actually follow me on Twitter. I'm at Viva Fritz Jr., VIVA FRITZ JR. I actually always try to make some people laugh on this, so you actually might actually get a kick out of me every once in a while. So.
No, and there is a Twitter guy. Now, MyRaceNews.com, a good supporter of our show, and in radio shows, which there are a bunch of, he made a comment that the purse needs an increase. Now, I don't know if WJ's familiar, but I know he recalls when my daughter drove with the figure eight car, and here was our goal. Start last, when they start crisscrossing, pull out. When I went to the payoff window, I got $120. A lot of people don't realize that. She was finishing last and getting $120.
I can totally vouch for that because 4 races, I think 3 of them I was in last place. So
yeah. And the Blunderbuss is like $105 to win. Mm-hmm. And it costs the same. It's still, $8, $9 a gallon for fuel. Mm-hmm. The tires are still 100 and change. You still got to put the same amount of tires. The pit fee's the same. The license is the same. If you're looking to make at least cover some of your expenses, figure eight race is the way to go. Yeah. Like I said earlier, dollar for dollar. And I can remember, and I'm not sure if it was the '98 championship or the one after that, when they added up all the money earned in the figure eights for TK, and not only figure eights, but all divisions. He was like the 3rd or 4th highest paid driver at the racetrack. And you're talking modified guys who make $1,500 to win, and I believe they get $200 to take the green. And he was number 3 in money earned, just driving his figure eight car. I mean, that's incredible. A lot of people don't realize that. So it's good all the way. It's good for everybody. It's good for the car owners. It's good for the parts guy because he can get paid. The tire guy gets paid. You get the hardware. Mm-hmm. They get the accolades. It's all good, and that's what it's all about. Everybody making out.
It's benefits all around. It really is.
Absolutely.
And you have a great time as well.
Yeah.
So, again, like you said earlier, there's nothing else like it. No other sport or anything like it. So.
No. Yeah, in auto racing, like I said earlier, a lot of people don't understand what we go through, what we sacrifice as race car drivers. I mean, the racing game passed me by. I haven't really raced competitively since '96, but I did a couple of truck races, and I did okay. I got a couple of top 5s, but and I don't even know how I did that. I just stayed out of trouble. But when I was online going, I still had that butterfly feeling. Mm-hmm. I still had that determination that I wanted to go out and do well, not only for myself, but for the people who helped get me there. Yeah. The guys that worked on my car, the guy who gave me the check to pay for everything to go, and the guy who gave me the racing equipment. And you go out there and the adrenaline rush. I mean, it's a high. And you don't come down from it for a while when it's over.
No, not until you have a whole new set of emotions running through when you're actually in the car driving. But
Yep.
I definitely agree with you. You have that whole butterfly situation going on, and then, you know, you have somebody next to your window net talking to you. Actually, I had a couple people,
Yep.
a rotation of people trying to give me a good pre-race pep talk. But
Yep.
when you get out there, it's only you, and all the feelings go out there.
Once you go up and over that ramp, it's you. The BS stops when the green flag drops, and you go racing. And you do the best you can with what you have at that moment. And sometimes the goal to some guys and gals that race, the goal is to drive it off at the end. And that's always what I told my drivers. This week's goal is to finish the race. Next week's goal is a top 10. And once we've achieved that, we move to the next level, a top 7, maybe a top 5.
That's exactly what my father
You know,
told me. Exactly.
You know, when you pass a race car on a racetrack, and I had to learn this the hard way, you don't pass the car all at once. You get the rear quarter, you get the door, you get the fender, you get the bumper, and you go. And it might take 3 or 4 laps. I tore up a lot of stuff trying to pass all at once, you know. Hey, there's a hole, boom, I stand on the gas pedal. Next thing I know, you know, after the butterflies and then the ringing of my ears stopped and I'm being hooked to a wrecker, I'm like, oh, that was stupid, you know. But it's you know, you got to be patient as a race car driver, and you know, and you sound like that. You got everything in place, not only equipment-wise and crew-wise, but internal-wise. It looks like you're ready to do this.
You know, I'm very, very excited. You know, I sit out there. I didn't race last season, and I'll tell you one thing. It was definitely one of those. Everything was running through my head. You know, I could be out there right now, and you know,
Kind of frustrating.
Yeah, in a way. But you know, now it's time to change a new beginning. Like I said earlier, it's with this car, and everything's in place this year. I have very good help.
Now, I recall that a few months ago, I remember seeing you at a SAFER meeting.
Yes.
You're a part of the Suffolk Association of Figure 8 Racing?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we know, that club is not what it once was. And, you know, and of course, racing's not what it once was, and racetracks aren't what they once was. And I know when I started doing this, there was 60, 70, 80 cars. And I started 33rd in the Consi once. 33rd in the Consi. And it wasn't like championship day, it was Saturday night. And my friends were like, why are you even taking 2? You're starting 33rd. What do you forget about it? You can't pass 5 cars. You're not going to pass 29 or 31 actually. And now everybody qualifies because they don't have full fields, and not only here on Long Island, but at other racetracks as well. So, you know, a lot of things are changing. Even at Daytona, back in the 60s, 70 cars would show up for this event. And back in the 50s, if you showed up, you raced. You know, and now today's a little different, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that's going on today in racing that behind the scenes that people don't see, people don't understand, you know. And when you do that now, you know, you're going to college, you're going to Suffolk Community College here and studying broadcasting.
Broadcasting, yeah.
Which is, you know, kind of good. We always have a room for guys like you on our staff, you know.
Definitely be happy to help.
You know, but when you go into, how do I put this? When you go into something like this, that eats up a lot of your time, and there's going to be sacrifices that need to be made. And when I say sacrifices, you're going to want to go out. I mean, your friends are going to want you to go, hey, come on, hey, we're going here, we're going there. And I'm going racing. Oh, I got to go work on the car. They're not going to understand that.
No.
You know, when you think about stuff like that, I know Mike Andrews, he drove a modified, good guy. You know, like he missed his prom to go racing. As I got older, I was on the reunion committee for my 25th reunion high school. I only got on the committee because I wanted them to schedule a reunion for a week I was off, so I can go racing.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do that with other things in my life, but I did that. Now, you know, as a college guy going, there's a lot of things that socially go on in college that you want to be a part of. And I'm going to throw this out there. You know, you seem like you're prepared to do that. Are you prepared to do that? You're focused.
Definitely am.
I could see that.
You know what? It's like it's a totally different thing, and it's very rewarding. Anybody can pick up a bat and a ball and go play baseball, but not everybody can go and grab a hold of a wheel and go racing. And trust me, you do become very envious of a lot of people you're with when you're out there and like we were saying about Twitter before. You post on Twitter how you just ran a race and how you did this, that, and the other thing. There's billions of people talking about how they, went out and played some basketball with their friends, but there's only a select few that can go out and say, finished the top 5 in a figure 8 race today, or finished in something like that.
And I'll tell you what, people, you did? Oh, wow, how'd you do that? And it's funny, I remember I did a lot of traveling when I was racing, and I'd be on the plane and people would, oh, you raced? How many times did you win? Mm-hmm. And I never knew how to answer that because I didn't, At least I didn't win with the checker flag, but to me, there was some nights, and people tell you, I was happy to drive it off the racetrack. I was like a win some weeks. Or not to have somebody want to beat the crap out of me after the race. That was like a win too, But when you look at that and tell people that, they're like, wow. I said, yeah, I didn't win, but, you can always lie because they don't know. I was battling for the win and wrecked, and it was all the good stuff. And it's funny how you sit on a plane with somebody and they hear you're a race car driver, and all of a sudden it's conversational. They want to know about what you do.
That's how you spark interest. And you know what? There's not a lot of that going on. That's what you said earlier. There's not a lot of interest in the sport. It's definitely, like how you were saying, it's almost dying out. There's not a lot of people who are interested in it, but that's because there's not a lot of people who are really engaged in talking about it.
Exactly. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue on our discussion with Gary French Jr. and the Rookie of the Year contender for 2013. We'll be back.
Stop putting it off and start painting it up today at Ben's Paint Station, featuring Benjamin Moore paints, Sickens, wood finishes, paints, and professional paint supplies, ideal for contractors and homeowners. Stain paints and epoxies, family owned and operating, in business for over 55 years. Professional and experienced help. Located at 2 locations, 55B Route 25, Coram, Long Island, New York, and 1495 Plaza Montauk Highway, Mastic, New York. Call them at 775-7435 and 775-8135. Ben's Paint Station, featuring Benjamin Moore Paints. Log on to the Enravio advertisers page today.
Oil City Skate Park, Long Island's only indoor skate park. Skateboarding, BMX, inline skating, open 7 days a week. Nearly 150 decks by Baker, Flip, Girl, Chocolate, Real, Plan B, Crimson, Zero, Element, DGK, Bogata, and more. The best in tees, hoodies, wallets, trucks, wheels, bearings, t-shirts, hats, and DVD. New York's largest Santa Cruz dealer. Introducing Jart Skateboards, Europe's best-selling deck. Oil City Skate Park, 3565 Maple Court, Oceanside, New York. Phone 516-442-0706 or go to www.oilcitysk8.com for more info.
Enravio.com.
Good Times Magazine, New York's best entertainment paper for 43 years. Check out their calendar for all the latest music info, including New York City, Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk. Studio News brings you the biggest news about the hottest artists and sounds. Technobeat is your guide to electronica, techno, house, and dubstep. Packtrack keeps you up to date on the biggest events at the area's performing arts centers and theaters. Good Times Magazine gives you all this and more. It's bi-weekly and it's free. Pick up your copy today or visit goodtimesmag.com.
YouNeedAPart.com. Fast and free, the internet's top used parts locator service. Over 3 million part searches since 2001. Salvage yards, sell more parts. Become a member today. YouNeedAPart.com. Tell them you heard it on Enravio.com.
and we're back. You know, over in studio here, we have your dad, Gary Fritz Sr., and Mr. TK, Tom Kraft. They're rummaging through the scraps of the lobster tails and the steak that I left, and kind of jealous because there's not enough time in my break to go, eat. And anyway, they'd probably push me out of the way, so.
I'm allergic to it, so I couldn't really touch it either.
Yeah, so but anyway, it's funny. We were talking off air, and I was talking over now. Your dad reminded me of something, that you crashed into my race car in 2011.
Yeah, thanks, Dad, for throwing me under the bus there.
It was one of those things. Brian Cicella was my driver. He was driving the 8-ball, and I'll tell you what, Brian never got upset over racing incidents. Never. I mean, when the race ended once in the year prior to that, and somebody drove into him on purpose to try to get the wheels and wreck the car. I saw a different side of Brian. And Jay Slice, he's on. He's been racing with his brother for forever. Roger Maynard affectionately calls them the Joe brothers because they were always together. They were almost like Siamese twins. And but I remember that night I was like, oh man, that's gonna be bad, and it wasn't. And Brian came in, he goes, he's new.
Yep. I actually talked to him last week, and he came up to my job, and he's like, "Oh, you recognize me?" And I didn't because I haven't been around the figure eights in a long time. I'm like, no. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the first person you ever hit with a figure eight car." But yeah, he came out to me this next week after I hit him, and he came up to me and he says, "You know you can brake going into the corner, right?" And he shook my hand. He says, "You know what?" He says, "Happens." Very cool guy. I was very happy that. I mean, I don't want to hit anybody, but I'm very happy that I hit him more than anybody else because I don't want any bad blood out there.
It's kind of funny when Jay Slice just said, "My brother's a nice guy until you cross him." Hey, I'm the same way, man. But it's funny in how racing people are. And there was a driver. I'm not going to say who it is, and if somebody in the chat room can figure it out, that's fine. And Jay Slice, you can't tell. There was a driver that parked next to me when my daughter was racing a figure eight car for me, and this guy would always change his tires after 60 laps, and he'd give them to us, and every week, here's 4 more, here's 4 more, here's 4 more, and I was like, oh, thanks. Well, we're in this big race. It's the Ernie Maynard Memorial, and she loses the power steering. My daughter's a little girl. She can't race without. She had enough trouble racing with power steering, another one without. So she lost it going through the X, and she kind of jiggled the car a little bit, and she realized she had no steering, so she stops in the corner. Just stops. Every car, one to the left, a bunch up to the right, everybody's going around us. So this driver spotted us and said, "Stay in the middle." And he drove right into it. Now, we have the old style car. Nothing broke. Little sheet metal damage. He was out of the race. We never saw another tire again. But in the figure eights, everybody helps each other, and I know the help that I got, because I'm not a mechanically inclined type of guy, unless pushed that I have to, or I'm not racing. I'm not into. I don't like getting dirty. I don't like crawling underneath the race cars, and it's kind of funny. I was the undercarriage specialist for the modified series for 3 years, and I hated crawling under race cars, whether it was mine or somebody else's. But I always had help. I always had help, and sometimes I just had to make one phone call to a certain person. And by the end of the day, I had help, no matter what it was. And my crew would tell you, my job when we were working on the car in my garage, and my guys there, my job was to make sure that they had something to eat and something to drink. That was my job. And of course, to pay the bills. He's laughing. What does he say? Jay Slice, my old crew chief. You don't know what all the tools are. No, I don't. And he'd ask us something, what are you talking about, I mean, I know what a wrench is, I know what a screwdriver and hammer is, but there's certain things I don't know, whatever. What does it look like, And it was easier for them to just go get it, not me go get it. But, racing is one of those sports where, and like I said, TK and I, we traded some paint on the racetrack. There was a night that I thought he took me out. My car was like I was racing on ice and everybody else was on rails, and I thought he took me out, and I was livid. And we're arguing in the pits, we're screaming, yelling at each other, and finally he goes, "Go home and watch your tape. I'll be up all night waiting for the apology." So No, I'm thick-headed. I'm not apologizing.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, that's what happened. Well, there's a party at his house the next day. And this is a hard lesson that I had to learn. And my family went to the party. I stayed home. He goes, where are you? He says, where am I? I'm like, after last night. He goes, Joe, Saturday. Sunday to Friday is different. And it took me a long time to realize that the emotions that happen at a racetrack need to stay at the racetrack.
Yep.
And I was lucky. Sprague is asking, who's TK? That would be TK Tom Kraft, a 3-time figure 8 champion with, I believe, close to 40 wins between Islip and Riverhead. He's laying on the couch sleeping. I think that got his attention.
Yeah, Professor
In
Kraft.
Studio A. Now, how many wins do you have? Do you know? A lot. 34. That puts you 4th on the all-time list? 3rd on the all-time win list. Tied with downtown George Brown, another great guy, figure 8 guy, who I've known for 35 years. You know, George Brown, downtown George Brown, another guy, character. And that's what's missing in it. There's no characters anymore, you know, there's no characters. But we need the young guys. We need the guys like you to come out. And I'll tell you what, you know, when I heard that, you know, there's no secret to have a race car sitting. And, you know, TK was trying to convince me to put some 12-year-old in it. I mean, because we have to, you know, build a division and get the history. I mean, the guy wasn't 12, but as far as I was concerned, he might as well be 11. But we got to do that. We got to get the young guys in. And then hopefully the young guys bring in other young guys. And blunderbuss guys who are tired of racing for $20 when it costs them $500 to race might want to try this. And, you know, Slim Jim Donaldson was a blunderbuss guy. I put him in one of my cars. He made more money that night, finishing 10th, than he made all the previous season in his blunderbuss car. Brian Cicella, another one. You know, one figure 8 racing. You know, we had a ball together. Mike Muse. Mike Muse didn't start racing until he was like 30. And he was one of those enduro guys. And you know what? I mean, he still had enduro mentality when he went figure 8 racing, and now he's a champion. You know, he's the 2012 champion. And he'll be honored at the Safer Awards banquet on April 7th at the Smithtown Land Country Club. And if anybody wants to go and they need information, just hit me up on Facebook. I'll give you the information. It's going to be a good night. It's always a good night, you know, the figure 8 banquet. You know, the hardware gets given out, and the point fund checks, and there's good food, music, dancing. It's all good stuff. So it's nice. Somebody asked before in the chat room, Mike Andrews, what happened to Mike Andrews? Mike Andrews was an up-and-comer in the modified ranks. He had some wins at his local racetrack in the modified feature division. And he went modified tour racing on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, has a pole at Thompson. And he hooked up with a great team. And one of the top drivers, TC Ted Christopher, lost his ride. And this guy, who committed to Mike Andrews, said, hey, Mike, you know, I got a championship guy. Let's pool, take some of your stuff, some of mine, so we'll get the second car out. And, you know, some things happened, whatever. So Mike went back to the weekly series, got a ride with somebody. And as they said in the chat room, his excitement lost him that ride. And that's a nice way to put it. He just certain things you don't do when a guy's spending thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to put you in his race car. It's just, you need to be humble. And not only in that level, but on the lower levels as well. Sometimes you need to be humble. And thank God that you have an opportunity to go racing. Now, you raced nothing before this.
No.
Like, you're not even your bicycle in the neighborhood.
I wasn't even too good at driving a 5-speed or any type of manual transmission. I just went out there and, you know. And Tommy, before I came on here, Tommy was talking, you know, throwing out the baby stories of how he used to babysit me. And he was like, my God, this kid is crashing into everything. So
he did say that. He said something about you couldn't even like walk in your walker.
Couldn't even walk into the walker. So
now you're racing race cars and a NASCAR.
I'm just hoping he doesn't say the same thing at the end of the night. So
You know?
Cross your fingers for that.
Well, and I've known, I have known TK longer than anybody. You know, because we grew up together. And when I say we grew up together. And we laughed together, we cried together, we played together, we fought each other. But we were always there for each other, you know, it was one of those things. And, you know, it's when you can't take what he says personal.
No.
You know, I remember he came out, I finished like third one night, and I'm all excited. I get out of the car, I'm on the roof, I'm off in the buffer, oh, this is great. He comes over, he goes, what's this? I said, what's that? Because I was going through the corners like, you know, goose in a gas pedal. You don't do that, crap. You could have won. He's screaming. I'm screaming. I'm happy. I had like a top 5. No. Then we watched the tape the next day. I had to hear it again. But it's not because he was breaking my chops. He just likes to see guys do good. And so don't take what he says to you personally.
No. First thing he told me when I went out for my first race was bring it back in one piece. Pull it back in. You did the exact opposite of what I told you to do, Gary.
Yeah. And he does say stuff like that, but it's, you know, he means well, and his heart's in the right place, and I'll tell you what, there's not enough time on this show to mention all the people that he's helped in his, and I'm gonna say 35 years in this business. He's helped everybody, and you know, sometimes it was getting him a sponsor, sometimes it was getting his sponsor. Hey, this is my buddy, he needs tires, and Grant Williams, Northeastern Office Equipment. I'll tell you what. I needed rims, and I didn't want to go to the parts guy because what he was charging was astronomical. And TK says, oh, call Grant, he has rims. What do you mean he has rims? He's a distributor. So I went to Grant and I said, hey, I need 4 rims. All right, come. And I went into this room and it was just a room full of rims. And, you know, and he took care of me, you know, because don't get me wrong, he didn't say, here, take them and good luck.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I paid for those 4 rims, I couldn't have got one from the parts guy.
Yeah.
And that's the way he is. So, you know, you've surrounded yourself with good racing people. Woogly Dumpling is saying that this is your show. TK, don't even mention TK's name no more.
You know he's gonna come in somewhere. It's inevitable.
You know, it's funny, you know. And when we do this figure 8 thing, people think we're nuts, and we're not nuts. This is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. In the last, I'm gonna say 10 years, 20 years, I don't recall too many people getting banged up at the X.
No.
Not like in the old days when you had these crazy guys that who the heck knows what they were doing, you know, who thought that was funny to wreck somebody. They don't do that anymore.
That's the hardest thing to explain to somebody who doesn't know, you know. Oh, I'll just drive straight through the X, you know, no questions asked. I don't know if you feel the same way once you're out there, so.
Yeah, it's funny. Some guys, once they put their helmet on, they squeeze their brain a little bit. Now speaking of guys, in the NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified Tour, George Brunhutzel III, I had the opportunity to talk to him at Daytona. And I was surprised he wasn't there racing. So him and his dad, George Jr., you know, we were talking, and I've known George Jr. for over 30 years. You know, his dad and Georgie III and his wife, Heather. I know Heather since she's a baby. And I said, you're not racing. What's going on? What's, you know? And he goes, you know, my car owner, you know, packed it up. It was a father, son. The father had a car, the son had a car, and the father decided not to do it anymore. And his son wanted to go with this other Southern guy, who's not really a Southern guy. He's from New Hampshire. And he says, I can't get a ride. I said, wait a minute. 3 out of the last 4 years, he's the champion in the touring series, and he couldn't get a ride. And I thought there was something wrong with that picture. So I reached out to a team spokesman just the other day and found out that George Brunhutzel III, the 3-time champ on the Modified Tour in 2009, 2011, and 2012, with 17 wins in 67 events. That's not too shabby. After missing the Daytona race, he will be driving his family-owned number 28, the car he won the championship in 2009. And I'll tell you what, I was prepared tonight to talk about how sad that was that a 3-time champion, I'm not talking he won 3 championships in 20 years. He won 3 championships in 4 years, couldn't get a ride. And in talking to his team spokesman today, she told me that it's all politics. And in talking to Georgie, or GB3 as a lot of people refer to him as, and talking to him at Daytona, he said, the problem with the Southern Series, and not that it's a problem, but the problem that he was having was it's fathers and sons and nephews. It's all family. They don't go outside their family, especially to a guy from up north. And I thought about that, and I was like, you know, I'm thinking about it, you know. Like Frank Fleming, who was on that show Madhouse from the Southern Tour, his son is now, or I'm not sure if it's a son or his nephew, is driving, he drove the car at Daytona. The Myers brothers, they're 3rd-generation drivers. You know, Daddy Myers ain't putting GB3 in his race car because he has 2 sons. It just kind of goes down. It's kind of, I don't know. You know, somebody's saying that, and I can't really read what it's saying, that due to recovering from shoulder surgery. Yeah, but you know what? I've seen guys like come out of the hospital and go racing. Maybe he would have ran the family car, but the fact remains that here's a guy, I mean, dang, he's got 67 events, 17 wins. That's incredible. That's like a 25% win percentage. That's a lot. Yeah. That's like winning once a month. And in a competitive series like the Modified Tour, that, you know, in the Southern Tour, I think they're averaging 22, 23 cars, and I'm sure WJ has that number. You know, when you look at that, you know, that would mean, I mean, there's a 10-race figure 8 schedule here on Long Island, and if you were to be in the same kind, you'd have to win like 3 races, and you'd have the same percentage. And I'll tell you what, looking at the figure 8 division now, and not that I'm far removed, I don't go to the racetrack hardly anymore, but I do look at results and I do talk to people. And there are no slouches in the figure 8 division. What's racing now on any given night can win. And you know, and I'm talking, you know, Mike Muse, Tom Ferrara, Anna Peterson, Brian Cicella has a championship caliber race car. You know, he should be up front running, or running up front, I should say. When I look at these guys that are still doing this, you know, in that division, it's, like I said, anybody can win. And with a 15-lap event, and the way the handicapping works, you know, the guys starting, you know, 12th and 14th, they don't have 20 laps anymore to go to the front. So, you know, now a guy like you as a rookie, you're going to be starting, you know, with the handicap, you know, dead spanking last there, and I guess your goal in the beginning will be to stay on the lead lap and pass a couple of cars and to not get lapped. You know, when you look at this with the Rookie of the Year program, now Brian Cicella drove my figure 8 car. He was Rookie of the Year in 2011. And thank you. And I'll tell you what, you know, we joked about it, and it wasn't like there was a bunch of rookies. I mean, there was a couple, but when you added up the points, he was the Rookie of the Year. Yeah. And you know, and I'm not sure who's coming in rookie-wise in this year. There may be a rookie in my race car, you know. But you know, and I'll tell you what, it's even if the rookies go to battle each other, because then it becomes a friendly rivalry. Yes. You know, and
that's how you grow into the sport together.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and then you know, it's funny. There were guys that I raced against that helped me put my car back together so I can go race against them. And I wasn't in the points. I wasn't, you know, going for anything. But that's how we do it in this business, and you don't see that in any other divisions. No. You know, you don't see Charger guys and street stock guys and SK Mod guys helping each other like the figure 8 guys do.
Yeah. My car, which was your old car, so bring that back up. But my first car was you know, everybody puts names on the car, everything, but I only had 2 simple words on there. Well, 3 simple words. It said pit crew, everyone, because that's exactly what it was. Wow, everybody helped out, and you know, I can blow up one week and then I'd have 4 more people I didn't even know their names, and they're already there helping me
Yeah,
put everything back together.
That's just how it is. Even they were nice. I didn't have a way to get the car to the racetrack, and you make that one phone call, and next thing you know, somebody's showing up at your house with a flatbed or a truck and trailer or something, or at the shop, and that's how it is. And the figure eight guys, it's almost like it's a family.
Yes.
It's a family, and the safer guys, again, that's traditionally was a family. Everybody working. You go on a Tuesday night, you can hash out some of the stuff that went on in the last 3-4 weeks, but it's hashed out and it's done and it's over, and you move on. It should be interesting, and I'll tell you what, I'm happy to see that a new guy is coming in. I love that, and like I said, we've been kicking it around for a long time. Put a kid in your car, put a kid in. And I said, I can't afford to have a kid race. My sponsors can't afford that. But you know what? It's maybe that's where we need to go, because we're in a catch-22. There's 10 races because they're on a lot of cars, and they're on a lot of cars because there's only 10 races. Somebody has to give in. And like when we first started racing figure eights, there was no schedule. You showed up. Saturday we loaded up and went racing, and now there's a schedule. And I look at the schedule, and I think there's like 3 weeks off in August, July, August, somewhere in that period. And my concern is the week before off week 1, it rains. The week after the 3 weeks off, it rains. That's 5 weeks off. That's a half a year in some cases, But looking forward, I know the figure eight cars are unique, but have you put any thought into racing other places?
Well, you know what? Right now, as you know, I'm starting off with what I have, but you never know what's in store for you. If I do become successful, which I'm very hoping to be in the figure eight division, and have real determination for that, you never know. So, of course, you always want to take the next step in anything you do, and especially racing is always just one of those things.
I mean, I race in a couple of different, and I wouldn't call, and some of those chat room people know, I wouldn't call sometimes what I did racing. I was kind of just riding around sometimes, but I was having a good time. And Jay Slice is saying there's 1 3 weeks off, and then there's another 4 week off. I mean, who made that stupid schedule? I just can't believe that there's a schedule like that. But I keep getting reminded that we should be happy there's a place to race.
Yep.
And that's okay. And I agree with that, because our cars are unique. And I don't know where the next or nearest figure eight racetrack is. And I think I don't even know.
Couldn't even tell you.
But I think moving forward, I think the powers that be need to, if you're going to do a 10 race schedule, race every other week.
Yeah.
You're still going to get 10 races in, but having a 3 week and a 4 week thing, I don't know. But yeah, I knew. Remember I said WJ was going to have the facts? WJ, he says, GB3 won 9 races in 2011, 2012, 5 at Caraway, 1 each at Bristol, Charlotte, Hickory, and Thompson. Now, GB3, and a great guy. About 10, 12 years ago, I wrote a column for Area Auto Racing News. And I mentioned George Brunson. He was just a kid. I think he was a rookie that year. And I said, this guy's going to be a champion. And I said, you could see it in his face. You could see the determination. You could see, the interaction between him and his dad. There was, I don't think I ever saw them yell at each other at the racetrack. They always sat and they talked. And then, his father was good enough as a driver and as a fabricator to eventually come up with all these Brunhutzel tools, and that's kind of subsidized their racing. But when you look at that, when I look at a kid like that came out of Long Island, came out of West Babylon, Long Island, and went south and was successful, it's a tough deal. And of course they're in the modifieds now. And I always say to people, whether you have a modified car, which is the feature division or the feature series at many weekly tracks, or if you have a street stock, once you have the car, it costs about the same to race it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny that I learned that from Joe Bertuccio of Gershaw Recycling here on Long Island, who was a multi-time champion in modifieds and late models. And he showed me a book one time because he kept track of everything. He goes, this is how much it cost me to run the late model. So I'm looking at it, and it cost him about $20,000. And he goes, and this is what it cost me to run the modified this year. I was like $20,000. I was like, how could that be? And he said just what I said earlier. The pit fee's the same, the fuel's the same, the tires are almost the same, the license is the same. You know, once you have the car, that cost, you throw that cost away. You have it. You have the car. Now you go racing. He goes, now this is what the late model made. So the late model only made about $2,000.
Yeah.
Whereas the modified, I believe that year the modified made about $12,000. And I was like looking at it, I couldn't believe it. So, you know, when you look at figure racing, we talked about it earlier, and I know some chat room people were disagreeing, dollar for dollar. And again, everybody says, oh, I'm not here for the money. I'll tell you what, I'd rather go to the payoff window and get $400 for like third or second than get $105 for winning the blunderbuss race and getting my $2 trophy. You know, and when you look at that, when you look at that now, you're not going to see that money. You'll never see a penny. Oh, I'm warning you right now. Dad's going to get that, and then Dad's going to hand it over to the parts guy.
Yep, exactly. Might as well just cut out the middleman at that
Just
point.
cut out the middleman. Just tell the parts guy, listen, the playoff window's over there. But, like again, I'm going to go back to the cost of racing. You know, the cost of traction control was not in that book, WJ. But anyway, with the cost of racing moving forward, and you know, you have the nucleus of a good sponsor, Northeastern office, and some marketing help from JTL Enterprise to help you find good sponsors. What? And I'm going to put you on the spot now.
All right, here we go.
What are you going to do to make those sponsors come to you?
You know what? You gotta basically reel them in. It's all about, you know, can you provide for the sponsors, and what can you provide for? It's just simple marketing.
See, guys out in the chat room, I didn't tell them to say that. And as you guys that were here last week, there's no script. I've been saying that for 2 years. It's what can you give back to the sponsor? And you know, when you look around, and I know some guys that have the same sponsors forever and ever, okay? Bridgetson, you sounded just like me. I didn't tell him to say that.
I think I met him like 4 times before this.
Yeah,
so
and once was at a meeting and he didn't talk. You gotta show return. You gotta do that, you know, because if there's no, I mean, it's not like the old days where guys have barrels full of cash or money buried in their pool or in the wall. You know, we don't have that anymore. And you know, what's the return? And you know, what's in it? I call it the WIFM. What's in it for me as a sponsor? And you know, a guy like you present yourself well. You're going to college. You're working. You're doing all the, you know. I don't know how you find the time to go racing, working on the job, and going to school, but. You know, but that's a good thing. Determination. There you go. It's determination. It's drive. It's I want to do this. You know. And you're not one of those spoiled, rotten little rich kids who's going to sit there and, hey, Daddy, I want to, and your daddy's going to go buy it. I know your dad a long time, and he's not that way. He's not that way at all.
No, I wouldn't be here if it was like that.
Exactly.
Not the way.
And that's the other thing, you know. Like George Brunhustle III, you know, they work hard at what they do, and you know, if it wasn't for working hard, he wouldn't be racing. And like you said, I am so glad to hear it. I just found that out today that he's racing the family car. In fact, I wanted him to call in today, but he was doing another show. It's a little bit more, it's a little bigger than my show. But that's okay, because we'll have him on and we'll talk, you know, and talk about racing. Sometimes I look at the race train, the chat room, and I have fun. But it's I don't know. When you go racing, you guys didn't build a new race car. You took an existing race car that was fairly successful, and your plan is to make it better. Maybe a shock spring package, maybe a little more horsepower. For 2013, and I don't know if you knew this, maybe you do, you don't, but who's your motor builder? Who do you have? You left him out.
Oh.
So I knew the answer to that. Big Sal's race engines. Big Sal puts out good horsepower, good stuff. Big Sal has some motors on the modified tour, the weekly series. Again, I know Big Sal a long time. Big Sal is a Safer Hall of Fame member, voted in, I believe, last year. And when you have Big Sal's motors and you have Ricky setting up the car and you got Dad and TK paying the bills, we're expecting a lot from you.
Mm-hmm.
We're expecting a lot. And
I know.
we're
Definitely
gonna,
know that.
you got some big shoes to fill too, you know, because, you know, it's kind of funny because you're driving for champions.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I remember saying to one of my drivers once when I went and looked at the finish, and I'm sitting there looking at it, I said, you know, other than myself, most of the guys I surrounded myself with were winners. So I said to my driver, I'm just not used to reading the finish from the bottom up. And
Yeah.
and we laughed about it, we joked, and things got better. But when I look at 2013, and I had concerns for 2013, I really did. And you know, some things were supposed to happen with my race car, and it didn't happen. And you know, a couple of guys said that they wanted to drive, and then they just didn't do what they were supposed to do. And you know, and I know there's like practices for like 4 weeks away.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we need some TLC on my car, and I do have somebody, believe it or not, that is serious about racing my car, unlike the individual who came on the show in October and said they was going to race my car. I guess he got engaged, or it was different priorities now. And God bless him, hey, you know, if you know he's got a kid, he's got I think a 7-year-old, and they're into go-kart and they're doing a family thing, and he's going to settle down and get married and whatnot. And I respect that. But moving forward, it's going to be good to have a crop of rookies, because I think there's one or two others that are at least talking about racing in 2013 in the figure eights. So the rookie crop is going to be good. And it's not like, you know, you're going to back into the rookie of the year thing. You're going to have to work at it this year, it looks like. And that's a lot of work. You know, and especially with, you know, like a 12-car field. You know, back in our day, and if a guy finished last, he finished 24th. And it was like what they call the 2-point night. You got a couple of 2-point nights, you're hurting. But, you know, with a 12-car field and the way the points are now, you know, you finish last, you're still looking at 20, 24 points. So you're not going to get hurt that bad. However, either of the other drivers, the other competitors. So when I say a rookie contender, this guy's going to have to work at this. And I'm surprised none of the other rookie contenders are like commenting tonight. Usually the people have a lot to say about that. You know, what are they saying? The starters critic. Oh yeah, it says Big Sal's is back. As I can't read sometimes. Rankin graduate started his career there. Oh yeah, a lot of people started their career with somebody saying that they were with another race engine builder, and they switched to Big Sal's, and they all of a sudden their whole thing changed. Like my racers, I think that's a shot at me. There's that my car gathering dust. My car's not gathering dust. It's gathering snow and rain and sleet and sandy, and I'm surprised it didn't float away in Superstorm Sandy. But the other rookies, I'm not really sure of name-wise. They were told to me once, and I really wasn't paying attention. But I know one car owner was here before to say hello. From what I understand, and according to this individual, Brian Hansen is supposedly racing a figure eight car this year. I don't know what happened to his blunderbuss. I mean, I know what happened to it, but I know it was being rebuilt. But I just got word from him today that they go in figure eight racing. It'll be a rookie contender, so to speak. And there was somebody else, and I'm not sure what that person's name is, but Yeah, we do, WJ, because I'm having trouble with it too. I have to wait till it gets to a certain. I have to wait till it rolls up to the in Ravio part of the chat room, so I can see. But we'll work on it. It's a work in progress. We're doing some things here. I know it's 2 years, but we made some changes recently to our video, and we're going at it. And what do I see here? A little rumor there. What the? Somebody's. Sprague is saying, any rumors that Sal Accardi Jr. is going figure eight racing. Now, where would you hear a rumor like that? Because I know I didn't say anything. So, that is it's not really a total rumor. Sal Accardi Jr. has been talking to somebody about going figure eight racing. Sal, a former modified driver, just wants to go out and have some fun. And for him, this schedule's perfect. It's a 10-race schedule. I know they're working out the details for him to drive. And he's one of the guys, he just wants to go racing. The guy's been racing like for a long time. And technically, he would be a rookie as well. So it should be interesting. It should be very interesting. But, you know, it's red and black don't work. It'll be interesting to see how it all pans out because, you know, we have some rookies who never drove figure eight stock cars before, and we have some rookies who never really raced anything before. You know, I know Brian Hansen raced a blunderbuss a handful of times, and I know they had an issue. He tore the car up pretty bad, and you know, we'll see what happens. But we're not making any commitments with the Sal Accardi Jr. deal, until the car hits the racetrack. So it should be interesting. What do they say here? They say, how can you be considered a rookie when you've raced high division? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If Jeff Gordon decided he wanted to come race late models at the local racetrack and was in the points, he'd be eligible for Rookie of the Year. Doesn't matter where you've come, where you've gone. Like Brian Cicella ran late models, and I believe he was Rookie of the Year there as well. It has to do with how many races you race in that division. So, you know, you could have been a modified driver for 10 years. You wanted, I'm going to race figure eights. You know, I mean, that's, I don't want to say step down, make it sound negative, but that is a step down. It's not the feature division. You know, there was guys who went from figure eights over to late models to Chargers. They kind of bounce around. It has to do with the series. Now, you know, it's when you think about that. You know, I know, you know, WJ is big on, you know, how things should be. He thinks there's something inherently wrong with that, as I quote him. I don't see that as a problem. You know, it was just like the Blunderbuss Rookie of the Year in 2006 when I sponsored the Rookie of the Year award. The guy who won the Rookie of the Year, Donnie Oliver, had raced dozens of Enduros and won Enduros and won Enduro championships at multiple racetracks. Should he have been considered a blunderbuss rookie? Because, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it again, I keep this note here because nobody believes me. Blunderbuss racing on Long Island, it says in a rule on the same page with fire suits that blunderbuss is an entry-level, low-cost division. The guy got Rookie of the Year in the blunderbuss. He had raced Enduros for about 15 years. He was still a rookie. I knew you'd like that, WJ. I keep that here, page 1, because people don't believe me. They just don't believe me when I tell them that. And everybody says, no, they took that out. Well, in the 2013 version of the rules, that's still in there. It's still in there. They haven't taken that because they probably can't find it, even after I told them exactly where to find it. It's on the same page as fire suits. Why it's on the same page as fire suits, I'll never know. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, I know how it happened. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. If you want to talk to me outside, I'll tell you. I will definitely tell you. Now, you know, it's funny now. When I saw you race in 2011, because I was there a few times. You know, I do a lot of traveling, so I wasn't there a lot. And when I go, I was Brian Spotter. And I don't know how Freddie Kraft does it, because he just has to worry about going in a circle. But he was smart for figure eight cars. He was pretty smooth there, too. you know, it's inside, it's outside, and low and high, and I'd say to Brian, go for the X, and he would say, what? And by the time he said, we're at the X, I never mind, you know. Now, are you going to utilize the spotter that you know of?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
You know who that's going to be?
Yes, I do know. It's going to be one of my car owners, going to be Tom. So I'm looking forward to that and dreading it at the same time.
So you don't have to wait till the race is over to pull into your pit spot to get yelled at sometimes. He'll probably be yelling at you.
Oh, he'll still make sure he yells at me both ways.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't matter,
definitely.
but...
Now, I know, what did it say? Freddie what? I have to wait till that moves out. He's asking about Freddie.
Did Freddie teach TK how to spot?
No, I think that was the other way around. I'll tell you what. I really do. Because you gotta understand, Freddie was spotting in his own little world like when he was 3 years old. You know, he's been going to the racetrack since he was born. And you know, he was one of those guys that I called them track rats because they were always there. You know, like my daughter Kerry, she's always at the racetrack somewhere, you know, running around, doing whatever, you know. But you didn't, I don't remember you being at the racetrack when you were little.
That wasn't really a thing for me when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, just started sparking interest in it, and now I'm here talking about it on a radio show. So.
Yeah. I mean, you were what, 6 years old when your dad won that championship?
Yeah, I was young.
So you were like,
I think
it was 98.
98, yeah, I was 6 years old.
I didn't know.
I'm not a math major, so.
You don't have to be when you're in broadcasting. You got people. Because I have Christine. She takes very good care of you. Without her, I'd be shot. I'm telling you, I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to do this. She is the best in the business as far as I'm concerned. And I did another radio show years ago, and I had a professional. I was at a professional radio studio where we did our show through the internet, and she blows that guy away. And that guy got paid big bucks to be our producer. So my hat's off to Christine. I'll never take my hat off. I'm the bad guy. But let's see, what are they talking about? Let's see what are they saying.
Tell Gary I like his hat. Thank you.
Yeah, like your hat.
Good choice today.
Woogie Dumplings. See, I don't know who some of these people are because they hide behind these fake names, you know? I don't know why.
I appreciate that.
But the Long Island Mod Maniac, he's on. He's talking about not figure 8 news, but Legends 1,000 to win race on June. I guess that's June the tour night. 1,000 to win from Long Island Mod Maniac, and I don't know if you know, Long Island Mod Maniac is making it happen for the modified guys, now Legend guys, and you know, maybe one of these days we could convince them to help out the figure 8 guys too. But it's all good. And I'll tell you what, the drivers that he does help in the series that he does, it's very greatly appreciated. And you know, it's funny, you know, as the only Long Island official in the Touring series, when I go to all these races, they'd say to me, who's this Long Island Mod Maniac guy? And I'm like, well, you know, he's a guy that's into racing and he wants to do the right thing for everybody, because sometimes the racetracks just don't do that, don't have the ability. And it's guys like that make it happen. I mean, 1,000 to win for the Legend guys that night in tour race, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Long Island Mod Maniac, we'll talk about anything. It just doesn't have to be figure 8s. We'll talk about, you know, dirt tracks. We'll talk about bog racing if you want. We'll talk about fire department racing as Kevin Basic will call in during the fire department drill team season with the results. So, and that's a good thing for the Legend cars. And I still want to do, I still think the racetrack, Waterford Speedbowl and Riverhead Raceway should do a Cross Sound Challenge. 3 races at Waterford, 3 races at Riverhead. You combine your points and you have the Cross Sound champion. And I think that's something that could be worked on. But it can't come from me, because if I say that we should paint parking spots in the pit area, they'll erase them just because I said it. So that needs to come from other people. And I know there's the people from the racetrack, the local racetrack, that listen to this show and don't sign in. And because usually by Tuesday at 10, the owners of the racetrack know what I talked about on my show. You know, so anyway. My racing says Jim is more likely to make that happen. Absolutely, that's why I'm putting it out there. And I don't even need credit, because I don't want credit. My credit will be when I read in a newspaper that it happened, all right? Because that's the type of guy I am. I don't need accolades. I got enough accolades. I have a bunch of kids and a bunch of grandchildren, and that's what makes me happy. You know, I don't need somebody to say, hey, that was Joe's idea. I don't care. I know it was my idea. It's like certain rules that I put in to save lives. I don't need to be told that, hey, you did a nice rule. I'm just happy that it's in there. You know, and speaking of rules, figure 8 rules. You may or may not know because you're pretty new to this, but figure 8 rules, they really haven't changed over the years. They're pretty much the same. I think it was going to a peak. Things were getting crazy. And this part. Before you knew it, you were spending a lot of money to go racing. And it's kind of leveled off, which is good, which gives you the opportunity to take an older car like you have and go racing. You know, people don't realize you don't have to go out and go have a Troyer car built to go figure 8 racing. You don't have to go out and spend 10 grand on a motor. You need to have a good, strong chassis, a good, strong cage, you know, and a barrel pan. That's it, and go racing. I mean, it's kind of interesting, and what you moving forward now. As a mechanic, what mechanical abilities do you have, or are you just a wheel man?
Whatever my father tells me to do, I do. That's all it is.
I love it.
That's all it is.
I love it. So this is going to be good because your dad's used to having drivers that kind of just showed up. So he's going to have help now.
I was told I'm not allowed to reach that level until I can prove it. So 3 top 5s, I think I was told before. Let's see how that one goes. Then
Now, your dad raced figure 8s too at one point. I remember he raced this car. I think it was number 19.
14.
14. It was Beretta. Was it the Beretta? The Nova. Oh, yeah. That's right. Oh, the pizza box car. Yes. That almost got killed in the pizza box car. Your father drove that car before me. So there's a lot of history in this one now. It's funny, the cars don't go to the junkyard no more. They just keep resurfacing. Because that car that you drove in 2011, I sold to Johnny Zell. And somehow it ended up, and Johnny Zell passed away, years ago. Johnny gave it or sold it or whatever. It ended up in the hands of Knuckles Nunziata. Knuckles Nunziata sold it to some guy in the Midwest. And I don't know how you guys got it. Because I was looking for that car. I wanted to restore it. I wanted to bring that car back and make it look like the 1984 Islip Speedway car that won the last race.
I just want to know who jinxed it for me before I got into it.
The guy in the Midwest, I think. he had to get it far away from him. He sent it back to Long Island. But it happens. It's just.
Oh, it's part of it.
I mean, the last time I raced a guy, I blew it up.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, I blew it up. It was 19. It was funny. I ran it, blew it up. Then Ricky drove me because I couldn't race for whatever reasons. I could race. And Ricky blew it up. And then I got a motor from Dwayne Wallace, and I blew that up. And then I said, I can't do this no more. And I just took a back seat. So anyway, let's see. Long Island Mod Maniac have often thought of the Cross Sound Ferry would be a great sponsor to grab. I'll tell you what. I know the Cross Sound Ferry, at least, is it the one that goes out of, the Port Jeff Ferry, actually helped out Greg Shivers when he was racing the Wheeling Modified Tour, letting him go on the boat with his truck and trailer and family and crew for nothing. It was like a reciprocal thing, and that was good. But, if we had the Cross Sound Challenge, now we have 2 ferry companies that we could kind of compete against to get this as a sponsor, 2 racetracks that could make this happen. And with the magic that the Long Island Mod Maniac has and the pension he has for gathering monies for drivers, I think this is a doable thing. And I'd love to see that. I really would, with the legends. There's something we could do. And I think we need to have a Safer 8 race to rekindle the safer stuff. And that you have to be a member of Safer to get that extra money. And that's something I'm kind of trying to work on right now. So and we'll see what happens at the banquet on how it's taken by the czar of Safer, Joe Saraceno. We'll talk to him about that. But anyway, it's almost that time, Gary. I mean,
oh man, it went quick. I'll tell you that.
You know, it does. And I've been doing this. This show, we're starting our 3rd year doing this show, and we've come a long way here, and we've had some good guests. We've had some great guests, and you rank right up there. And I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule between work and school to come talk. And again, Gary Fritz Jr., a 2013 Rookie of the Year contender, with help from Grant Williams of Northeastern Office Equipment and JTL Enterprises. So it's a good thing. And I know, like I said, I know your dad for a long time, and I've known TK, your other car owner, his entire life. So you're in good hands. You're definitely in good hands there. And I wish you the best, man.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Anytime,
I really appreciate it.
Anytime you want to come by and say hello, or we got some chat room people. No, those donuts from last week, they're no good, WJ. And I don't think he eats donuts anymore, but anyway. So the Cup guys will be in Bristol this weekend. Fortunately, I'm going to be away on some personal business, and I'm going to have to DVR it so I can watch it when I'm done. But it's one of my favorite racetracks, and I used to go to that race every year. It was awesome. So anyway, we're coming down to the nitty-gritty with the season just around the corner, not only here on Long Island, but all over the country. With the short track racing season, guys, it's funny, the Daytona race comes, all of a sudden everybody gets a fire in their butt to get going. It's because it's going to happen shortly. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedule, spend the time with us here at 505 On and in Radio. Don't forget our shows are archived at www.inradio.com. And it's been great. It's been a good night. Good night, everybody. God bless you all. Be safe in whatever you're doing. Hope to see you all next week. Good night, everybody.
I'm a maniac, and I'm on the attack, and you're a racetrack hack at the back of the pack. You drive like my Uncle Pete. He's blind and ain't got no feet. Just one more lap till I take the checker. Add another win to my winning record, another trophy, more respect. And a great big gosh darn check. See, there I am in victory lane. I'm doused with champagne once again. There's you in last place.